focus on steps to get you ready or to push you along the journey of building your business with your artwork. So the first thing I would make sure I had in place if I were just getting going, and maybe even if you've started, you're going to be struggling a little bit with your mindset. This matters a lot because if your mind isn't in the right place, you're going to find it really challenging to continue to keep going and have faith in yourself. I want you to understand that your belief in yourself and your belief in your artwork should be the guideposts that lead you into this place where you're ready to jump into a full-fledged business with your art. If you're not there, if you don't feel good about yourself, if you don't feel good about your work, then the place to start, of course, is with making adjustments to that mindset. Change the way you're thinking about yourself and your art. You need to have faith, both in yourself as an artist and the artwork that you're creating. And that's your best first step in creating an art business, is to get that attitude adjustment, right? So I'm going to give you a series of questions that you can ask yourself, just to maybe give you a guideline of like how to determine if you are in the right mindset, okay? So the first question is, has being a fine art painter been a lifetime dream of yours? Or have you been wanting to do it for a long time? Even if it hasn't been something that you thought of as a child, has it been something that you've thought of periodically through your adult life? Because if you're just looking at it as a way to make some extra income or something like that, then going into business might not be the right thing for you, because it takes a commitment. So the second question would be, do I feel like it's now or never? In other words, we all come to these points in our lives, and usually there's more than one, but there'll come a time where like you'll be up against something that has been in the past maybe been working in your life, but at this point it just doesn't feel like it is entirely working for you now, and you feel like you're up against a wall and that something has to change. And sometimes that can give us that sensation of either I'm doing this now or I'll never have another opportunity to do it again. If that's you, if you're in that spot and you're thinking about jumping into this fine art career, is this something that you really feel like you really want? Now the next question is, am I committed to do this endeavor no matter what? In other words, I don't think that it's probably a very good business strategy to stick your toes in the water and test things out. If it's something that you feel like if I don't do it right now, I'm never going to have another opportunity, or I've been dreaming about this my whole life and I have the perfect time is now, it must be now, then you're probably in a better place to say, yes, I could be committed to that. Because trying doesn't work. You know, how many people do you know in your life who have tried to quit smoking and just can't do it? If you're trying to start a business, you're going to fail. You're just going to fail. Most businesses fail anyway. So we don't want to start out on the wrong path in creating our lifelong dream, right? And then the third or fourth question I would have you ask is, am I ready to go the distance? Because even if you started off and you're like totally jumping in and saying, yes, this is what I want to go for it, I'm going to do this thing, and you start plugging away at it, somewhere along the journey, you'll come up against a wall, a fence, some kind of barrier to the next level for you or the next stage in that progression. And it can seem really, really hard. And this happens, I don't care who you are, this just happens in business. You just come up against something that brings up conflict or maybe overwhelm, or maybe these feelings of maybe I'm an imposter, or maybe I just don't know if I can manage all of this mentally or physically or whatever. And it's really just pushing you up against the perceived limitations that you've held about your life. and it's asking you to let go of some of the things that maybe aren't serving you any longer and readjust your patterning so that you can move past that little barrier and continue on. And some people, especially if you're trying to do it all on your own, you'll hit that spot and feel like, oh, I can't do this. This is too hard. It's too much. It's more than I thought it would be. And they'll give up and not move forward. And so a couple of things that could help alter your mindset in the beginning is understanding that, failure doesn't exist. Failure is a funny word. And we tend to label situations and people with that word, and it's not fitting. In a scenario where you are going to build a business, you have to change the way you look at that word failure. It simply means that you've given up. If you decide before you even begin that you're not going to give up, then there's no way you could fail, because everything that you come up against, you'll figure it out, right? I love this word, figureoutable. Everything is figureoutable. And when it gets tough, that just means you need to be a little more resourceful to figure it out, because everything is figureoutable. And if you can do that and keep going, then there is nothing but success for you. Failure just simply doesn't exist when you give up this idea of trying and you step into something with a commitment. If you can commit to growing an art business, then anything that might have previously looked like a failure in the past simply becomes stepping stones to where you're going. So maybe you try something out in your business and it doesn't work out quite the way you thought it was, but it's just a learning experience. I would never call it a failure. I would say, well, that didn't work that way, or these parts of it worked and these parts didn't, and take the parts that worked and build on that and let go of the things that didn't. And you just keep going. If you keep going, you cannot fail, right? I would start out just knowing that you are totally committed to your dream, and then just keep in mind that you have to figure it out as you go. And sometimes that means getting the help, or even if you want to go faster, sometimes you need to get the help so that somebody can fill in the blanks of all the things that you don't know. And then second, I want you to kind of let your heart lead your way. Your heart always knows what's best for you. And a lot of times our training is about being logical thinkers and planning things out and making logical choices and taking logical steps. And when it comes to creating and marketing and selling your paintings, you need to let your heart lead, at least most of the time, because your heart is going to send you in the direction that's perfectly suited for you, which might not look exactly like somebody's method or business strategy. You may have to move in a slightly different direction because you are unique, your artwork is unique. It might require you to be a little more flexible in that. But if you can do those things, if you can ask yourself those questions, if you can be committed and have faith, then there's no reason why you couldn't just dive in to starting a business. I have left a link in this description, and I will put it below in the comments. I have a free downloadable resource guide that has a lot of things in there about what tools I use, what suppliers I use, where I buy my materials and things like that. Super, super helpful. If you have never bought show packs or pre-cut mats or sleeves to slip your artwork into or things like that, it will be super useful for you, and it's totally free. So I would recommend that you go get that free resource guide.